It's been 24 years since Maximus Decimus Meridius asked us,
"Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?"
And while back in the year 2000, the answer was a resounding yes. Yes, we are. When it comes to Gladiator 2, things get a bit more complicated. 16 years after the death of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Empire is even worse off than it was when we left it, now ruled by two absolute clowns as twin emperors who are much more concerned with conquering new lands rather than actually taking care of their own people. But a hero arises yet again from the sands of the Colosseum. With his desire for revenge and the future of the empire at stake, Lucius must look to his past for strength and honor to do what needs to be done. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this was some terrible, worthless movie or some shameless cash grab of a sequel. That's just not true, and there are things I enjoyed about Gladiator 2, which I will talk about. I have a lot to say. But you've seen the title of this video, and yeah, for all of its $300 million budget scale, action, rhinos, and sharks, it left me feeling nothing. I consider myself to be a Ridley Scott fan. He has made multiple of my all-time favorite movies, and I will also gladly defend some of his less popular films. I was rooting against all skepticism for Gladiator 2 to blow me away, so believe me when I tell you I am genuinely sad that even though I found it visually impressive, it ultimately felt emotionally hollow. Ridley Scott's Gladiator is an iconic historical epic. It's an unforgettable piece of early 2000s blockbuster cinema that revitalized the sword and sandal genre, reinvigorated the audience's interest in this type of film, re-energized, you could say, like a great cup of coffee. And if you haven't yet found your perfect cup of coffee to get you ready to face the arena of life in the morning, the delicious sponsor of today's video, Trade Coffee, will help you out. Whether you like it bold or smooth, dark or light, sweet or fruity, Trade has the right coffee for you. They will curate a selection of blends matched specifically to your taste, have it roasted to order, and deliver it directly to your door from America's top independent roasters on a flexible subscription schedule of your choice. I take my coffee pretty seriously. I love it. It's a part of my morning ritual, so I am not one to settle for just okay coffee, and neither should you. Trade has been a game changer for me, and I love trying new blends based on their recommendations. Right now, I'm really enjoying this Black Apple Espresso, which has just the right amount of kick, but also a bit of dark chocolate sweetness combined with a touch of cherry. I love that you can actually taste this kind of nuance because of how fresh their coffee is. And here's the deal. Right now, when you use my link, drinktrade.com/impressionblend, you will get a free bag of coffee with any subscription. Again, that's drinktrade.com/impressionblend to get your first bag free with any new subscription. It's that simple to instantly elevate your at-home coffee experience while also getting some delicious coffee on the house. And who doesn't like free coffee? So follow my link below, and thank you so much to Trade Coffee for sponsoring this video. But let's get back to Gladiator 2, and I want to start with some positives here. Visually, this movie is very impressive. You wouldn't expect anything less from Ridley Scott's big budget spectacle, but it's still so impressive when you see it, and he immediately immerses you in this world. The scale is massive, the sets are beautiful and detailed, the costumes are gorgeous, everything looks so rich in texture, so tactile. This movie is definitely getting some technical nominations at the Oscars, there's no doubt about it. On top of that, we all know that Ridley Scott knows how to film a battle, and we are immediately reminded of that with the very first one. Of course, there is plenty of action throughout the film, and a good variety of it as well. We have ships, we have a siege, we have one-on-one combat, we have arena chaos. There's a lot going on. All of it is staged and choreographed really well, and it's definitely a visual feast. It feels grand. I truly respect the director's commitment to epic cinema, and there really aren't that many directors these days successfully working with these massive historical settings the way that he is. His films may not always come together as far as the storytelling goes, but visually and from the perspective of the production itself, it's nothing short of impressive. And as for historical accuracy, look, if people are still mad at Ridley Scott for lack of historical accuracy, I don't know what to tell you. The guy just isn't about that. He wants the drama, he wants a subjective perspective, and he expects people to know they're not watching a documentary. The original Gladiator is not historically accurate. Napoleon is not historically accurate. And Gladiator 2 has sharks in the flooded Colosseum, among other things. Ancient Romans did flood the Colosseum sometimes to stage naval battles though, minus the sharks, which is kind of insane. Do I personally prefer a higher level of historical accuracy in movies in general? Yes. But in this case, I know I'm watching a Ridley Scott movie, and suspension of disbelief is expected for entertainment purposes. Since we're talking about the visuals though, I'll quickly mention that some CGI animals do look weird, particularly those silly sharks and oddly demonic looking monkeys. But taking everything else into account, it just didn't bother me that much because this movie looks so much better than most traditional blockbusters out there these days. The other massive positive Gladiator 2 has going for it is Denzel Washington. The man is operating on a whole different level compared to everyone else, and I am so ready to hear his name during the Best Supporting Actor Oscar nominations announcement. He steals every scene he's in, without exception, and his performance had my attention 100% of the time. I would have watched an entire movie just about his character because out of everyone in this film, he is the one who feels the most like an actual person. We don't know what his backstory is, but we can tell that Denzel knows, and there is a lot going on in his head at all times. He brings so much to his character. Connie Nielsen is really good as well, and her connection to the first movie worked the best for me out of everything. This movie has a lot of those connections, but her character is the one that made the most sense. Pedro Pascal is good, and there is some nuance to his character, but he feels like he is fulfilling a very specific function, unlike Macrinus and Lucilla, who actually come off as very driven. Paul Mescal, on the other hand, I'm not sure if the writing just wasn't there for him or if he was miscast, because there's no doubt that he's a great actor. But he kind of gets lost in this grand spectacle, especially compared to some other performances. Maybe this movie is simply bigger than what he needs because he thrives in roles that are quietly powerful and emotional, and there are a few moments like that in Gladiator 2 that he is great in, but for the most part, as Lucius, he comes off as a pretty generic hero. And it's not that he doesn't have charisma, he just feels too quiet. To compare him to Maximus, because yes, his character is absolutely intended as Maximus 2.0, and the movie constantly reminds us about that, Russell Crowe commanded the screen whether he was talking or staying silent. There was insane magnetism behind his brooding. He felt like a leader. His quest for revenge was compelling. His anger stewing behind his eyes was palpable. But Lucius, I don't know why he doesn't have the same effect, especially considering the setup for his arc is very similar to Maximus. Too similar, if you ask me, to the point of feeling like a retread. He is this likable character in a brutal world. We once again have the dead wife, the desire for revenge as a driving force. We have the visual cues of touching grain and visions of the afterlife. But to me, all of this felt like an imitation of a much more impactful story rather than its own compelling character arc. And that's a problem because we're talking about the lead character. Gladiator hits you in the feels. You are invested, but this is nowhere near that. To be honest, I didn't even buy Lucius as leader. Like, why do people even follow him? This really gets into one of my main issues with the film. It's not bad, it's a good enough follow-up, but it feels like a lesser version of Gladiator in almost every way, and especially when it comes to the characters and the storytelling. Even the twin emperors just feel like over-the-top clowns compared to Joaquin Phoenix's Commodus, who was a fascinating character who felt like a real threat, as twisted and cruel as he was. And I get it, it's a choice. They're meant to be ridiculous, but you look at the emotional and political triangle of Lucilla, Maximus Commodus, and Gladiator compared to the politics and drama in this movie, and it's night and day, including the acting. And listen, maybe rewatching Gladiator a few days before this was a mistake, and I would have enjoyed Gladiator 2 more if the original wasn't as fresh in my mind. But the sequel insists on the constant connections to the original, so it's not like it wants to be a standalone film. And to me, that means that comparing the two is completely fair. It's supposed to be a direct continuation of the story. When I was taking notes for this review at the screening, the last thing I wrote about this movie was, I feel nothing. And that is very disappointing. I want to feel everything when I'm watching a historical epic like this, especially when it revolves around revenge and finding your place in the world. Gladiator 2 absolutely does not have the emotional weight or the compelling political intrigue of the first Gladiator film. It feels hollow. Most of the relationships feel hollow. The revenge quest doesn't feel that important or impactful. Look, maybe if the main thing you enjoyed about the first film is the Gladiator action, you'll enjoy this movie a lot more than I did. But as far as the story and the drama, the characters, which are all the things that make a film work beyond just being eye candy, even the acting, other than Denzel Washington and Connie Nielsen, it all pales in comparison. Gladiator 2 is entertaining. It looks great, except for some CGI animals. And for a movie that's 2.5 hours long, it's actually reasonably well paced. It moves along. I wasn't bored, even though I wasn't particularly invested either. It's definitely an impressive big screen experience, and if you're going to see it, definitely see it on the biggest screen possible. It's not a bad movie. They're not bad performances. It's okay. It's good. It's fine. I guess it's mostly good enough. But is this the way you want to feel about a big budget historical epic from the director who has previously brought you iconic cinema? Not even close.